Hey, I'm Lana from Lana Glowshot Art, and in this video we'll be unboxing the October 2023 SketchBox. This box is all about playing with ink in new and interesting ways, and we are going to just jump right into it. The first product in this box is a set of SketchBox signature acrylic inks in charcoal, blackberry, and goldenrod. You can apply these inks onto your surface in a variety of ways with the SketchBox signature dagger brush. It has this unique tapered tip that's perfect for a variety of brush strokes and techniques. We also have the SketchBox signature liner brush that will apply flowing lines in a variety of different weights. The surface in this month's box is the Fluid 100 hot press finish watercolor paper. This paper is in a pseudo block, which means that it is gummed on the long edges of both sides of the paper. This allows the paper to stay taut and resist warping when you're painting. A great way to learn how to use a dagger brush is simply by experimenting with it. Here I'm loading up my dagger brush with the blackberry ink and dragging it across the surface using the long curved edge. I'm also playing around with the weight or the pressure that I'm applying. If I press harder, I get more of those bristles to contact the page. I'm also playing around with using the long edge to draw thinner, more vertical lines. Give yourself 3 to 5 minutes and just explore every single kind of mark that you can make with this brush. As you're exploring, play around with how hard you're pressing, what direction your brush is going, how long and thick your brush strokes are, and how you're holding the paintbrush. There are so many different kinds of marks that you can make with this incredibly versatile brush. Acrylic ink is permanent once dry, which means that it's not going to be reactivated as I sweep this goldenrod ink over the top. This can be a really fun way to mix colors optically. Optical color mixing is when our eyes mix the pigments together as they are transparently laid one on top of the other. But these inks also allow us to physically mix brand new pigments. Here I am swatching the goldenrod right out of the dropper, but I can mix this wet ink on my palette to create new colors. Here I'm mixing the goldenrod and just a little bit of the blackberry ink. And as I move towards the right, I'm adding more and more of the blackberry ink to neutralize this color. And I end up with this really beautiful orangey brown tone that can be perfect for some fall vibes. Next, I'm swatching pure blackberry, and I'm gradually adding more and more of the charcoal color into it, which is creating a variety of more neutral purple hues. Finally, I start with the charcoal, which is swatched right out of the tube, and then I add more and more goldenrod. Because the charcoal is a little bit cooler and has more of a blue undertone, it creates a beautiful green color when it's mixed with the goldenrod. And this can be great to add more variety to your ink paintings. The final combination would be a mixture of the goldenrod, the blackberry, and the charcoal, which is going to give you a much more neutral brown. And of course, you can mix these up in any ratio to create a huge variety of neutral tones. Now let's return to this page and play around with the liner brush. Here I'm using the charcoal ink and I'm going right over the brush strokes that I have already done with the dagger brush. And I'm going to play around with as many different strokes as possible on this page. There's horizontal lines, there's vertical lines, there's swooping curvature lines, there's tighter curves with little dots. There are so many different things that you can do with this brush. And as you play and explore, I encourage you to play around with how you're holding the brush, what angle the bristles are making contact with the paper, how much you are pressing, how much weight you're applying, and how fast you're moving the brush around the page. Play, explore, and see how many different ideas you can come up with. And once your page is all done and you're ready to start a new project, all you need to do is slide something underneath the page to break that gummed adhesive. I like to use a butter knife, but you could also use a pencil or even your finger. There's still more in this box, and the next product we're going to look at is the Calligraphy ink by Speedball in white. This is a thick, opaque ink that you can use to apply highlights right over the top of your ink washes or that you can mix into the ink to create a completely different variety of colors. And the last product in the box is the Art Primo Hit and Go Empty Marker. To get this marker ready to use, you need to remove the top and apply some of the acrylic ink into the reservoir. You can put in one of these colors straight into the tube, but a really fun application is to mix the colors inside this reservoir. And I am going to play around with mixing one of those beautiful green tones by adding some of the charcoal ink and some of the goldenrod ink. Once all the ink is in there, all you need to do is put the top back on and shake it. That little metal piece isn't something that broke off. It's actually there to mix up your pigments and to keep them fresh as you use this marker in the coming weeks and months. The liner paintbrush is ideal for creating variety in your brush stroke, but this Hit and Go marker is perfect for creating really consistent, even lines. My favorite way to use the calligraphy ink is with a clean liner brush right out of the pot. Here I'm going over the top of some dry ink and I am applying what would be highlights or bright white details over the top. Play around again with different marks that you can make. They might be different because the consistency of this ink is a little thicker than the acrylic inks. A great way to warm up with these materials is to create a bouquet of flowers. This allows you to play with a variety of brush marks and colors and to really create something beautiful. I am using this month's prompt, which is mischief, to create a spooky thematic bouquet. And I'm starting with the goldenrod and some mixtures of goldenrod with that blackberry color to create a variety of different warm hues. Then I'm using the dagger brush to create so many different kinds of flowers, textures, and foliage. I am not going into this with a plan, and I challenge you not to go into it with a plan either, but to rather just explore and experiment different kinds of marks that look kind of floral in nature. After I finish up with some of those golden colors, I switch over to some pure violet colors by using the blackberry right out of the dropper. I'm using all different sides and angles of my dagger brush to create a ton of different texture and variety. Finally, I mix up some greens with the charcoal and the goldenrod, and I use these variety of different greens to create some leaves and some ferns and some different kinds of plants to round out this bouquet of flowers. Once I have the big color and the composition established with the dagger brush, I'm coming in with the liner brush for more specific details and some refinement. Here I'm outlining one of the flowers, but I'm not going around the entire flower with the exact same width. Instead, I add variety to the width by playing around with pressure. I'm also playing around with different kinds of marks that I can make with the liner brush, and I'm referring back to that sample page where I played around with all of my different brush strokes. As you play around with your liner brush, think of the different kinds of textures, patterns, and details that you can add, and don't worry about getting it just right. Play around, explore, experiment, and if it doesn't go perfectly the first time, just try it again. That's the fun of going into a project like this without a plan. You can really surprise yourself and discover things that you wouldn't have discovered if you did come in with a plan. After my liner brush is complete, I'm coming in with my Hit and Go marker for some green details. And then I also am coming in with my calligraphy ink for some white details and highlights. I'm going to show you one more painting, and this one's going to go quick because I'm taking a lot of time and condensing it into a very short amount. But I want to show you these washes that I'm applying to the entire page. I'm adding some water to my ink, and what I love about this paper is that there is no warping, even though I am applying a lot of wet material onto the surface. After the painting is dry, I'm going in over the top with a combination of goldenrod and a little bit of blackberry, and I'm adding some details to the lion. I'm playing around with my dagger brush, and I'm really exploring the kinds of marks that it can make to add texture to the mane and the fur. This layered approach that I'm using is working with general colors and then getting more and more specific with my layers as I move throughout the painting. A general to specific approach works so great with ink because, as you know, ink is going to be permanent once dry, and rather than worrying about getting everything perfect, working in washes of color can be a great way to get more concrete and more specific with your idea as you progress through the painting. When you select a subject matter, picking something with a lot of texture and movement can be a great way to explore your line quality and to use this liner brush for exactly what it's meant for, which is fine details, texture, and movement. But whenever you need a little bit more bulk to your line, don't hesitate to grab for your dagger brush. You can switch back and forth depending on what you're painting in a given moment. Because I have ink all over the surface of this painting, I can add highlights right over the top and they're gonna have big impact. If I didn't have those initial washes, the white wouldn't have the same impact over the top. Here I am adding all of my highlights in and I'm doing them with straight white, but I could also use the white and mix it with some yellow if I didn't want them that intense. For the final details in this piece, I grab the Hit and Go marker and I use it to add some grass texture to the foreground so that this lion really feels like it's part of the environment. And now this piece is complete. I hope you learned a ton about using ink and line work in this video, and we can't wait to see what you create. So be sure to use the hashtag SketchBoxOctober when you post your work online. For more tutorials and unboxing videos, you can check out our YouTube channel where you can like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. See you later.